This is the In Focus podcast from The Hindu.
Hello and welcome to the Hindu's In Focus podcast with me, Amit Barua, your host for this episode. A 73-member Union Council of Ministers led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi took oath on the 9th of June. A vast majority of BJP ministers have been retained, even as about half a dozen cabinet slots have been given to allied parties in the NDA government, the first since 2014 where the BJP doesn't have a majority of its own. So what kind of government are we looking at? Will the BJP's divisive plans of one nation, one election, a uniform civil code, or taking over mosques in Varanasi and Mathura be jettisoned? Or will the anti-Muslim speeches delivered by Prime Minister Modi during the election campaign be taken as the governing philosophy of the NDA government? Interestingly, not a single Muslim has found place in the 70-plus Council of Ministers. To discuss the months and years ahead for the NDA government, as well as look at the results of the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, I am joined by author and journalist Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, who has tracked the BJP and Mr. Modi's politics over the years. So Nilanjan, my first question to you, what do you make of the new Council of Ministers, the cabinet, and what kind of government can we expect in the years and months ahead?
First of all, Amit, thank you very much for having me on your show. It's always a delight to speak with you. And I hope that over the next few minutes, we'll be able to actually shed some light and also probably understand a bit better what exactly is happening. The first thought which came to my mind when I had a look at as to what was happening is that there was a greater amount of certainty and surety and self-confidence which Mr. Modi was projecting. Because possibly this was the first time when it became clear that who all are likely to be in the Council of Ministers, because a meeting was called by Mr. Modi at his residence for various newly elected MPs and also those who were not MPs, showing that the faces of people who were being inducted, that suspense which was there normally associated with the oath-taking ceremony kind of, was not there by the time the actual event started. We knew already that who all were coming in. We knew that Amit Shah would continue to be there, Rajnath Singh, Nitin Gadkari. There were also photographs of Shivraj Singh Chauhan. So it was clear that he was also coming in. Manohar Lal Khattar. So all these people being seen in that photograph, which was actually shown that this is the new Council of Ministers with whom he's actually having a word, giving them a brief of what he expected them to do immediately after they began the job. So there was nothing really, or rather, let me put it this way, that it appeared that there was a certain amount of self-confidence which Mr. Modi was projecting, that the decline in the numbers, the failure to get a BJP's majority on its own had not really, been a setback to Mr. Modi. The second thing which appeared to me was that it is not that the coalition partners were getting a larger than what was numerically justified presence in the union cabinet. So it is not that, once again, the message which is being sent is that Mr. Modi is not really being pressured by the allies and that they are going by the fact that the BJP is the dominant partner of the coalition, 240 seats and 53 by the allies. So the similar kind of
Yeah, actually, we saw Nitish Kumar trying to touch Prime Minister Modi's feet. That also did send a signal, didn't it, Nilanjan?
It also sent a signal, that when there was one video which came out, which was, I noticed it, that the moment Nitish Kumar walked in the direction of where Narendra Modi, Amit Shah and JP Nadda were sitting, Narendra Modi got up with a start. And whereas Amit Shah and JP Nadda did not get up to greet Nitish Kumar. So there are, I think that this body language business between that who is trying to do what, who is game playing is something that we will have to keep on tracking over a long period of time, because I do not think that the relationship between the Nitish Kumar-led JDU and the BJP is going to be the same till 2029. I expect changes in this, alterations in this relationship over the next few years, if not within a few months.
So what you were saying is that basically the allies have got a proportionate share. I mean, nothing more than that was due in the Council of
That's
Ministers.
right. I think a conscious message is being sent that this is not a huge setback for Mr. Modi and the BJP. That this is just a slight numerical adjustment which has happened, and it really is not going to impact the coalition government for the moment.
So if that's the message that Nilanjan, the government and Mr. Modi are trying to send, what is the ground reality? How do you analyze this?
There are troubles. The NCP staying out. Praful Patel actually giving a statement that they offered us to be a minister of state, whereas I personally have been in the union cabinet previously. The very fact that the BJP tried to reach out directly to Praful Patel and not to the leaders of the NCP. This faction, the Ajit Pawar faction of the NCP. So I think that it's not that there are no problems, but they are not yet surfacing because it's too early. Just give it a few weeks. I think that there will be complications. There are inherent problems which will come out. And the biggest problem is going to be Mr. Modi's personality. He's never been a team player. He's ever been a person who believes in consultation, who believes in a deliberative process. The BJP's own collegial style of functioning has been wrecked by Mr. Modi. In 2015, as early as that, several senior BJP leaders at that time, including Mr. L.K. Advani and Murli Manohar Joshi, had actually written a letter to the party president at that time. It was Amit Shah then. That the processes by which the party has actually developed all these years and for which it is known are not being followed. Even this time after the election, who has actually elected Mr. Modi as the leader of the BJP's parliamentary party? Normally, the process is that a parliamentary board meeting is called, and then it takes up a name, which is then taken before a meeting of the BJP parliamentary party meeting. None of these have happened. There's been just one meeting of the NDA parliamentary party in which various people who were non-members were also there. There was a photograph which I saw of that meeting where Yogi Adityanath was sitting. Now, he's not a member of the NDA parliamentary party.
Are you suggesting, Nilanjan, that the Prime Minister didn't want a election in the BJP parliamentary party, but because presumably somebody else could also have thrown their hat in the ring? Is that the reason why the BJP parliamentary party didn't meet?
Well, obviously, that is the conclusion that we will draw. Because if the processes which have been laid down in the party by convention were not followed by a party which is actually normally a stickler for conventions, pre-2014, it was possibly among the more democratic of parties in the Indian polity. That is no longer the case. It is now everything appears to be self-decided by one person. So it was decided that Mr. Modi will be the leader of the BJP legislative party, and then that because of that he would also be elected the leader of the NDA parliamentary party.
Before we move on to, as you rightly,
I'm not saying that. Just a second. Let me clarify. I'm not saying that there would have been a challenge, but the point is that it definitely is visible that a process was not followed. At a later point, we will be able to join the dots that if this process was not followed for a particular reason, or it just kind of they forgot in the thick of things.
Right. So as I just want to clarify to our listeners that as this is being recorded, the portfolios have not been allocated. So we will leave some of the business of analyzing what the government will do, what it will not do, with most of the old faces, being retained at another point with Nilanjan. But Nilanjan, I want to now get into the nitty-gritty of the election results with you.
Before that, Amit, there's just two. Sorry to interrupt. There are two more points about the Council of Ministers which I want to make us say something.
Right.
The first is that there is a minister who has been inducted from Punjab, Ravneet Singh Bittu. He has been inducted in the Council of Ministers, even though the fact that he lost the current elections from Ludhiana. Two things are important. One is that he was a Congress person. Three times he was elected to Lok Sabha from Punjab, once from Anandpur Sahib and twice from Ludhiana. He's the grandson of Bien Singh, the Chief Minister of Punjab and a Congress leader who was assassinated in the mid-90s in 1996. He joined the BJP in March this year. He was one of the almost one-third of party nominations that were handed out to those people who came from other parties by the BJP leadership in these elections. A decision which was criticized by the people who have grown up vertically within the BJP. That the BJP also has become an organization which has allowed and actually promoted lateral, and people who entered the party laterally were promoted. That is surprising. It's also surprising because he's been inducted in the ministry even though he lost the elections. And it immediately reminded me of 1998 when the RSS General Secretary of that time, K. Sudarshan, went at midnight to the house of Atal Bihari Vajpayee to disallow the induction of Pramod Mahajan and Jaswant Singh in the Council of Ministers. Because they had lost their elections from, Jaswant Singh had lost it from Rajasthan and Pramod Mahajan had lost it from Mumbai. Saying the RSS was very clear that any leader who has lost a immediate Lok Sabha elections cannot be inducted into parliament because he does not have the confidence of people of even his own constituency. The two of them, Jaswant Singh and Pramod Mahajan, were inducted into the party at a subsequent stage. Inducted within the Council of Ministers subsequently, yes, to the government subsequently. In contrast, Bittu has straight away been brought in. Which means that this party has become much more pragmatic.
Nilanjan, but here we also see that Smriti Irani, who lost the elections, was kept out of the Council of Ministers.
No, Smriti Irani, there are a few other people also who have lost the elections. Ajay Teni from Uttar Pradesh, he also lost the elections. He's also been kept out. Somebody, who was backed by the party, even though his son was involved in the killing in the farm during the farmers' strike. So this is definitely somewhat odd. It has been done obviously because the party is now much more pragmatic than what it was earlier. Not just pragmatic, but also I think it has become pays less emphasis to principles which were earlier the case during the Vajpayee-Advani era. The second is that the government is very proudly claiming that we have 5 minorities. They have inducted one Christian member from Kerala, George Kurian, who is also not a member of parliament. But then there have been instances where somebody who is not contested and is not a member of parliament, they have been inducted in the ministry. This is not something new that is happening. The 5 members who are from the minorities are from the Christian community, from the Sikh community, from the Buddhist community, and from the Northeast. Kiran Rijiju is a Buddhist and is from the Northeast. He doesn't have a single Muslim. Muslims are the largest minority group in this country. I think behind this, there is a story that the government, which was expected to probably, take back some of the anti-Muslim positions, more symbolic embrace of religious minorities, including the Muslims, is not happening yet. That is something which we must actually note.
Why are you using the word yet?
If maybe they will be doing it in times to come, but at the moment they have not.
Right. So Nilanjan, so now just shifting our gaze a little bit as I wanted, because the results also related to what the government may do, what it may not do. So I first want to go, with you to Uttar Pradesh. So before we head to Uttar Pradesh, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Technological acceleration is increasing exponentially. To make sense of this acceleration, we speak to scientists, business leaders, and policymakers on our new weekly podcast, The Interface. This podcast is hosted by John Xavier, the Hindu's technology editor, who will keep you informed about the dynamic technological landscape and the mindset needed to navigate this terrain. So tune in to The Interface on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
What is your sense of the results that have come up? The 37 to the Samajwadi Party, 6 seats to the Congress, 43 out of 80. This is not a result which many people expected. People were giving 20 to 25 seats maximum to the opposition in Uttar Pradesh. What really happened?
Several things. I think one, economic issues played a major role. People not having jobs, prices not under control, people having a lot of livelihood concerns. At a time when people start looking at the negatives, you start remembering other things also, which has been a failure as far as governments are concerned, especially during elections. So possibly also memories of COVID management, which were actually completely inept, especially in Uttar Pradesh, which became notorious for the floating dead bodies, would have possibly played one role. I think the opposition, their chemistry was perfect. They did mathematically a very good spread of the seats between the Congress and the Samajwadi Party. The caste profiles of the candidates was very good. Samajwadi Party reached out very consciously to the non-Yadav sections of the OBCs, including the extremely backward community. In this process, it worked out a new support base for itself. Rahul Gandhi and Akhilesh Yadav campaigned very well. Their meetings were in no way less, or rather, let me put it this way, their meetings were actually as much a success as Mr. Modi's meetings normally are. In fact, if any meeting this time were damp, those were Mr. Modi's meetings, because the euphoria of 2014 and 2019 was not there in any of Mr. Modi's election meetings. And I think that the Rahul Gandhi and Akhilesh Yadav, mainly Rahul Gandhi, was able to communicate to the people that the constitution is actually under threat. That is why they want 370, which is the two-third majority, so that they can change everything about the constitution. Now, people might not have read and understood the constitution very well, but it has become a huge symbol in the last 75 plus years that this is something which must be protected. That whatever we get, whatever rights we get, are there because of this constitution. That is the belief of the people. And if anybody is able to successfully convince the people, as Rahul Gandhi was, especially to those people who were from the weaker sections, constitution also has become synonymous with reservations. So it meant that they will take away our rights and that they will also take away the reservation that is there for us. That became a fairly deepened belief of the people from the underprivileged sections of society. And that is what led to the loss of the BJP's votes.
Right, Nilanjan. Now, I just want to take you to the neighboring state now, Bihar. Some of the issues that you mentioned, like price rise, unemployment, constitution, these are some of the same issues on which the opposition or the India Alliance campaigned in Bihar. But what worked in Uttar Pradesh doesn't seem to have worked to the extent it could have in Bihar. What do you think are the reasons for that?
We have to study the Bihar results a bit more, because if you actually notice, the RJD has the highest vote share. But this did not get converted into seats. This is something we have to actually go and study, look at the results from each of the constituencies. And at the moment, we have not been yet able to, I don't think that anybody has been able to have a look at it. I myself have not been able to look at the results in the constituency level in Bihar myself, nor have I read anything which actually said that any research institution has actually been able to study it. But in times to come, we definitely will be able to understand.
Right.
Being the largest vote share, getting the largest vote share also means that the RJD is the leading party in Bihar as far as assembly elections are concerned, and that in the next elections in 2025, it will stand to gain from it, depending on what are the kind of developments between now and the winter of next year.
Right. Well, one of the points we won't dwell into much, but I will just mention it. That one of the points being made was that the gap between the India alliance and the NDA was huge previously, so they probably couldn't make up the gap that existed in vote share. But we'll leave it for another day. I want to come now to Rajasthan. Even in Rajasthan, reporters who traveled on the ground, they were talking about 4 to 5 seats for the India alliance, but as many as 11. So, what is your sense? What happened in Rajasthan? Not so long ago, there were assembly elections, and the BJP performed creditably and formed the government. So, what do you think happened in Rajasthan?
After the BJP won the state elections last year in November, December, the new chief ministers who were appointed in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan had all reporters rushing and actually trying to look up the various online encyclopedias. That who were they? What helped in Madhya Pradesh, where the BJP has got 100% seat, that is 29 out of 29 score, is partly because of the fact that Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who was previously the chief minister, campaigned very prominently for the party in the state. Whereas in Rajasthan, they appointed a chief minister who was equally unknown like the Madhya Pradesh chief minister. And there weren't any local big leaders who campaigned as vigorously. The BJP obviously the leadership did not try to get Vasundhara Raje to campaign for the BJP in a big way. And they possibly paid the price for being very arbitrary with local leadership. Once again seen as that here is a party high command which does not even respect the wishes of the people. So while they voted for the party in the assembly elections, this was a personal vote against the way in which the party leadership of Narendra Modi and Amit Shah acted after they got a mandate in Rajasthan.
So the gains that the BJP made through some alliances in Andhra Pradesh, plus their creditable performance in Odisha, do you think that these made a difference for the BJP to reach that 240 number?
Of course, and also the fact that the Congress actually could not win more seats in Karnataka. Of course, there is a loss of the BJP compared from what they won in the state in 2019. But after the assembly election results, I don't think that it was wrong for us to expect that the Congress should win a few more seats than what they eventually have. So Odisha not yielded so many seats for the BJP, including even giving it a majority in the assembly elections and ending the Naveen Patnaik era in of politics in the state. I think that if all these had not been worked out in BJP's favor, they would have been down below anything between 200 and 220 seats. And that would have been terrible. Mr. Modi wouldn't have been able to become the prime minister with those numbers. There would have been much more vocal blocking of if the due procedures were sidestepped like it has been done this time. Anybody who was an aspirant within the BJP, if they chose to remain silent at this moment, they would have been vocal then. If the BJP did not have 20 more seats, if they were down to anything below 220.
So, what is your sense, Nilanjan, in Karnataka? Why did the Congress fare so badly? I mean, they have gained seats, as you mentioned, but not as many as many analysts expected.
One is that Karnataka in the Lok Sabha elections in the last few years have traditionally given a vote to endorse Mr. Modi's politics. Second is, I think also that the Congress within itself, could not present a very cohesive front, and that possibly led to some kind of a loss, in terms of seat by seat. If you actually look at it, then we'll possibly think that it was because the Congress was not as united as it appeared on the surface.
Right. Now I come to Maharashtra, big state, 48 seats it sends to the Lok Sabha, 48 MPs. And there, the India alliance has performed quite creditably. Almost 30 seats they have gained out of 48. So what is your sense? And, Maharashtra is a state where, the BJP has broken the Shiv Sena, it broke the NCP, a lot of political machinations going on in that state. So what is your sense? How have the people of Maharashtra voted this time?
The people of Maharashtra have not endorsed the BJP's decision to force a split within the Shiv Sena and the NCP. They definitely have not, given a mandate to do that decision of the BJP. Uh, Ajit Pawar's faction and the Shinde faction of the Shiv Sena, they are the B teams of their original parties. This has been established clearly. So we have elections very soon in Maharashtra. Within 2 months, the state is going to be in an election mode. As of now, unless things change dramatically, I don't think that the BJP is going to get a share of the power in the state. The Congress, Shiv Sena, NCP, Sharad Pawar's faction, Uddhav Thackeray's faction, and the Congress, I think, are much more comfortably placed as far as the assembly elections are concerned. This is going to be politically a setback for Mr. Modi personally, especially because Haryana also similar result is expected. Jharkhand also is going to be fought mainly on local issues. So if these three states, if BJP ends up on the losing side, I think that there will be some fresh problems for Mr. Modi at the national level. So year-end politics should be quite interesting and very fast-paced developments, completely unexpected, which we cannot predict and foresee at this time, are expected sometime towards the end of this year and early next year.
Right.
Early next year is also going to be elections in Delhi first and then Bihar. So a lot might change between now and 2025, at the end of 2025.
So we'll be watching all this very carefully. But Nilanjan, I want to now pick your brains about the macro national picture. I was looking through some vote shares a little while ago, and the sense I get that broadly, Congress perhaps contested fewer seats, but broadly the vote of the India Alliance and the vote of the NDA is almost equal, pretty much equal, not maybe a few percentage points here and there. So what is that message that is coming through, that, if 36% odd people, or that is, almost say 4 out of 10 people favor the BJP or the NDA, almost, 4 people also favor the India Alliance. What is your sense of that? What do you make of that?
Also, for the fact that from Uttar Pradesh, the rating for Rahul Gandhi is higher than that of Narendra Modi. Nationally, on a macro level, it definitely shows that Indian politics have become much more competitive than what it was since 2014. That now the BJP is going to face a challenge at every step. And unless in his governance style, he makes adjustments to show that he is appreciating the change that has happened in the 2024 elections, that the voice of the opposition has become louder in parliament as well as outside. So this must be reflected in the government style. If it continues to remain as authoritarian, as centralized as it has been, first there will be a trouble from within his coalition, and subsequently from the people. There will be greater protests, there will be more movements, not just farmers coming out once again, but new types of movement, because suddenly the democratic spirit has received a huge boost and the fear factor has somewhat come down. People now, I immediately see, speaking much more loudly and without fear. Various commentaries which people like me or others have made in the last few days, the number of appreciative messages coming through the social media has increased several times. It seems that suddenly people are breathing much more freely. This might not be true. There might be a lot of delays, especially when it comes to, releasing political prisoners, reducing targeted attacks on the minorities, especially the Muslims. may not happen immediately, but there is a greater sense of hope in this country.
Right. On that note, Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, thank you very much for sharing that one particular insight which I picked on, that Indian politics is going to be far more competitive than we have seen it from 2014. I think that's, for me, is a big takeaway. So thank you very much for talking to the Hindus in Focus podcast, giving us your time. You have watched the BJP and Mr. Modi over the decades. You are a biographer of the Prime Minister. So your insights are always welcome on the In Focus podcast. And I do hope, as India goes into a series of assembly elections, we will have occasion to talk to you again and again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit. It was a real pleasure to speak with you once again.
In Focus will be back soon with analysis of the biggest news issues. In the meantime, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and other platforms. Just search for In Focus by The Hindu. We'll see you soon.